The National Desk, America's News, now.
They went to let him in the door, but they backed off. And when they backed off, you could just see him turn to my right, and then you just hear gunshots.
Living with tragedy, 4 dead and 9 injured inside the new system that could have saved countless lives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu explains why his negotiating tactics have changed, what the families of the remaining hostages in Gaza now have to say about it. And then the NFL is back tonight as the defending champs kick off the season. They look to do something that has never been done before. This is the National Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for joining us in breaking news as we come on the air. A surprise turn of events in the Hunter Biden tax trial in Los Angeles. Hunter threw the prosecutors for a loop and has decided to plead guilty to the 9 counts against him. Let's get straight over to Christine Frizzau with the details.
An interesting day, to say the least. It was supposed to be the beginning of jury selection in this case. Instead, Hunter Biden's legal team said he was entering what's known as an Alford plea, in which he essentially maintains his innocence, but at the same time acknowledges the government has enough evidence to convict him. Later on saying he would instead plead guilty. In a Los Angeles courtroom, Hunter Biden facing 6 misdemeanor and 3 felony charges, all related to his failure to pay taxes from 2016 to 2019. These businesses, largely with overseas companies, from whom he made millions of dollars. In the indictment, special counsel David Weiss has laid out the case that instead of paying about $1.4 million in taxes, Hunter Biden was spending it on luxury cars, hotel rooms, and female escorts. These salacious details have already come out, including in his federal trial over gun charges. But even more details from former business partners were expected, all part of a 6-year investigation into Hunter Biden and his family. This move likely so that he could avoid another trial and minimize his prison sentence.
So I guess at the last minute, Hunter Biden and his legal team said there's no reason to have 2 weeks of this overwhelming testimony about your salacious lifestyle and failure to pay taxes. Let's try to shut this thing down and plead guilty.
Sentencing in this case is expected in 3 to 4 months from now. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
And also breaking right now, it is too soon to set a date for the election subversion trial against former President Donald Trump. That's what Judge Tanya Chutkan said today at the first hearing since the Supreme Court ruled former presidents can have some immunity from criminal charges. Prosecutors and defense lawyers made arguments related to the process and schedule. Chutkan said she would present a scheduling order as soon as possible with the next steps that could come later today. Schools in Barrow County, Georgia, have been closed for at least the rest of this week as the community is still coming to grips with the shooting at Appalachia High School in Winder that left 4 dead and 9 wounded. This as we learn more about the 4 people killed, 2 14-year-old students, Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angelo, and 2 math teachers. Look at the photos right here on your screen. Christina Ermy and Richard Aspinwall, who is also a coach for the football team. Tomorrow night's game has been canceled. As tragic as this shooting was, it could have been worse. But a new notification system called Senegix has just been implemented 2 weeks ago, allowing teachers to send emergency notifications to police with GPS coordinates.
Response was very fast from our SROs, probably within a matter of, probably 120 seconds after gunfire, the SROs responded to the individual and made sure that he was put into custody.
And the shooting suspect, 14-year-old freshman Colt Gray, will make his first court appearance tomorrow. He will be tried as an adult. We do know that the FBI has looked into Colt Gray before. Last year in May, the FBI investigated a lead form, the online chat from the the online chat platform Discord. A tip said there was a threat to shoot up the school tomorrow with pictures of guns. At the time, the FBI said that claim couldn't be substantiated. Yesterday's shooting was at least the 45th school shooting this year and the deadliest so far in 2024. According to CNN, 32 of these have been on K through 12 institutions, while 12 more have happened at college or university campuses. Mount Healthy City Schools in Cincinnati, they were closed today out of extreme caution following online threats made on Snapchat yesterday. The Post listed several schools, also including the Northwest School District and Cincinnati Public Schools. All of those schools held classes as normal with an increased police presence. There are no reports of any incidents. An investigation into the threat is ongoing. And this just in, the police standoff with an armed suspect in Macomb, Illinois has ended. It all started last night. You remember we told you about this at a residence near Western Illinois University. 2 officers were shot when they attempted to serve a warrant. They were taken to the hospital in critical condition, but thankfully they are in stable condition today. One of them has been released. A person was detained outside of the home earlier today, but was let go by Macomb police. The main suspect is now in custody. The university closed classes for the day as a precaution. A 13-year-old girl out of the Pittsburgh area has been found in the most unlikely of places in the general population of an adult jail in Beaver County. The girl, who went missing last month, apparently was arrested for shoplifting on August 17th and lied to police about her name and age. That left authorities to believe she was not a minor. When she told prison employees about her true age, she said she was homeless, making it hard to corroborate her identity, according to the Beaver County District Attorney. She's now back home with her parents, and her case has been moved to juvenile court. In recent weeks, several large companies have been walking away from previously stated platforms supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Another big American company has joined them. National correspondent Kelly Gaskins explains why these companies are having a change of heart.
Molson Coors, the iconic American brewer that makes Coors beer,
it's the product people love,
joins a growing list of corporations walking back some of their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The company will do away with DEI training, as well as supplier diversity quotas. They'll also no longer participate in an inclusion scoring system by the Human Rights Campaign. This summer, Harley-Davidson, John Deere, Ford, Jack Daniels, Lowe's, and Microsoft also doing away with DEI initiatives.
I think we'll continue to see anti-discrimination training, which of course is appropriate. But in terms of DEI and aggressive DEI especially, I think that's downhill.
HRC responded to these reversals by highlighting the $1.4 trillion spending power of the LGBTQ plus community, saying they're prepared to change purchasing habits, speak out, and even change jobs if this support goes away. Higher ed also scaling back or eliminating DEI programs at schools like the University of Kentucky, Alabama, Nebraska, and North Carolina. DEI initiatives gained steam following the death of George Floyd in the summer of 2020, but received a massive blow last June when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in college admissions. Many still support the DEI approach, like Hello Alice co-founder and CEO Carolyn Rods.
I'm happy to fight the fight. It's a fight I believe in to my core.
It's an issue Kamala Harris has long supported as well.
There's an attack right now on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
yes,
Where supposed so-called extreme leaders are suggesting it's a bad thing to care about and pay attention to inequities.
Several GOP senators here on Capitol Hill introduced a bill that would ban DEI offices and trainings in federal agencies. It's unlikely to go anywhere, but if the balance of power shifts after November's election, that could impact the odds of such legislation finding success.
And Kayla, lawsuits around DEI are also having a big impact. What can you tell us about those?
Well, anti-DEI litigation has ramped up recently. Some of these lawsuits claim practicing DEI is itself discriminating. What the legal issue is these legal issues are doing is they're draining money from the corporations, making it very expensive and legally very tricky to keep these DEI programs in practice. This has expedited the push away from them by the companies that I mentioned in my report above.
Live from Washington, D.C., Kelly Gaskins, thank you. Well, the NFL is officially back. We blinked and it was September. A live look over Kansas City, Missouri right now, where the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, they kick off the NFL season with a powerhouse clash against the Baltimore Ravens in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game in January. The Chiefs are seeking to become the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Several teams have won back-to-back. Also, with a trip back to the Super Bowl, Kansas City would become just the second team ever to win 4 consecutive conference titles. Kickoff is scheduled for 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Throughout this football season, sports betting is expected to reach new heights. The American Gaming Association projects an estimate of $35 billion will be wagered on games this year. That marks a 30% increase from last year of nearly $27 billion. Legal betting is permitted in at least 38 states and the District of Columbia. Coming up, the storms we're tracking right now in the Atlantic and why this hurricane season is so unusual. Then a major change in the number of teens vaping, the trends that show whether we're heading in the right direction. And later, what officials in Oregon are calling for from residents as windy weather increases the risk of fires. We'll be right back. Right now, as we come back on the air, forecasters are tracking 5 tropical waves in the Atlantic Ocean right now. Over the last few weeks, Atlantic hurricane activity has been surprisingly low, with no named storms since August 12th. These tropical waves could result in heavy rain in parts of the Gulf Coast in the next day or so. None of them are very likely to develop further. Over 70 million people are under heat alerts today as a dangerous heat wave continues. Temperatures are forecast to reach up to 115 degrees in the desert Southwest. Several daily high temperature records are expected through Saturday in the Pacific Northwest. The conditions will slowly improve in the region this weekend, but above average temperatures will persist in the Southwest. Just 5 days to go until the first and maybe only presidential debate of the campaign. As national correspondent Matt Gelka tells us, one candidate is hunkering down with prep while the other is attacking the host network.
With just days to go before their big debate, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are taking different approaches. Trump is trashing the debate's host network, ABC.
I agreed to do it because they wouldn't do any other network. The other thing is, her best friend is the head of the network. Her husband's best friend is married to the head of the network.
The former president appeared to be talking about Dana Walden, a Disney executive who oversees ABC. Walden has been friends with Harris for 30 years and has donated to her campaign and hosted a fundraiser, according to the New York Times. ABC News says Walden is not involved in their news-making decisions. Trump also claimed the network would collude with Harris.
They're going to get the questions. I've already heard they're going to get the questions in advance.
Meanwhile, the vice president arrived in Pittsburgh Thursday afternoon. She's expected to huddle in the Steel City, prepping for Tuesday's debate in Philadelphia.
They're going to be in debate camp mode, right? So some of this is going to be like, let's camp out and do some day trips, right, that aren't going to tax the candidate too much, get back and do more prep.
Wake Forest political communications expert Nate French says with the debate so close to the election and with early voting starting in some places this month, both candidates will need to make a clear pitch to voters.
If I'm in the Trump campaign, that I want to try to build on what I've said. I've said that she's a lightweight, she doesn't know policy. I want to push her on those things, and I want to specifically push her on issues of immigration, and I want to push on issues of the economy. We have to give her credit for being a prosecutor. That's where her focus is. So she's one where the devil is in the details, and that's where she'll go for. And that's going to push Trump because he doesn't like being challenged. He doesn't like being questioned.
Former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is part of a group of advisors helping Donald Trump prepare for the debate. She endorsed Trump and has firsthand experience debating Kamala Harris during the 2020 Democratic primary campaign. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Tomorrow's jobs report could be more impactful than usual. It will likely give us an idea of how much the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates, which it is expected to do this month for the first time in 2.5 years. Economists predict that in August, around 160,000 jobs were added and unemployment dropped to 4.2%. That would be good news following the previous month when unemployment ticked up. U.S. negotiators are rushing to put forth an updated Mideast ceasefire proposal, according to sources who spoke to Reuters. But the parties involved don't seem to be on board. Reuters says Hamas won't accept a new proposal, saying they want more pressure on Israel to accept one from July. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu told Fox News negotiations changed following the recent execution of 6 hostages. This as family members urge for a deal to release the remaining hostages.
I have areas of flexibility. I've given them to my negotiating team, and I stand by them. But now, to go and make concessions after these murders, it's a license to kill hostages. That's what Hamas will understand. Kill hostages, get concessions. That's just wrong.
It's just unacceptable to me, even the way he's presenting this. Yes, we're dealing with a terrorist organization, and they've been holding on to our kids for 11 months now. But I would expect from the Prime Minister to say, instead of just dismissing whatever is on the table and blaming it on Hamas, to say that he is committed to making a deal that will work.
This morning, police killed a man believed to be planning an attack near the Israeli consulate in Munich, Germany. Officers say the man was carrying an old long gun with a bayonet and fired at them. He's identified as an 18-year-old from Austria. Police beefed up security, surging in about 500 officers to the area. Today marks the 52nd anniversary of Palestinian militants targeting Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics. 11 team members died, along with police, and 5 suspects. Ugandan marathon runner and Olympian Rebecca Cheptegei is dead. On Sunday, Cheptegei's boyfriend poured gasoline on her and set her on fire at her house in Kenya over an argument about land, according to police. Today, the country's athletics federation confirmed the 33-year-old died last night at the hospital. Cheptegei placed 44th in the women's marathon at the Paris Olympics. Verizon is set to acquire Frontier Communications in a $20 billion deal that will greatly expand Verizon's fiber footprint. The company will take on Frontier's 2.2 million fiber subscribers on top of its current 7.4 million. The transaction is expected to close in around a year and a half. Verizon also plans to build millions more fiber locations. Almost 2,000 drug manufacturing plants are overdue for FDA FDA inspections, according to the Associated Press. That's about 42% of the factories registered with the FDA to make pharmaceutical drugs. Most of them are in the U.S., but some are in China and India. FDA guidelines say factories that haven't been inspected in at least 5 years are supposed to be prioritized. A new alternative to a pap smear could make cervical cancer screenings easier for women. Tests that left patients self-collect samples in a doctor's office are hitting the market now that they're FDA approved. The company BD is starting to ship its tests today, and tests from another manufacturer, Roche, will be available this fall. Back to school for many means back to snack time. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares a new list of a few healthy snacks they recommend.
Hey there, everybody. Popcorn does make the list for healthy recommended snacks, but some of what you need may depend on your activity level between now and the next meal, according to registered dietitians and nutritionists. For example, if you have sports or even band practice after school, Kettering Health Sports Medicine nutritionist Dr. Cindy Castle says you got to get those snacks earlier in the day.
Most of our kids are not getting more than 1,000 calories before 4.
She says that means eating breakfast and lunch is important, and getting a snack between each is ideal.
If you are running cross country, you need 1,000 calories before 4 if you're going to run 6 miles, and they just don't do it. And so they get tired and fatigued.
To avoid that fatigue, Eating Well recently summarized the top healthy snacks, and popcorn does make the list because it's a whole grain. But you'll do best, Dr. Castle says, with some protein-carb combos, such as peanut butter on an apple or even a bagel. Chickpea snacks, because they have fiber, protein, and slow-digesting carbs, also make the list. And so do walnuts. One study also found they can help your mood. Cottage cheese on fruit is a great snack. So is yogurt if you want the fruit inside it. Energy bars make this list. And so do smoothies, especially if they are made with protein carb benefits that come from chia seeds. If you do want your popcorn snack to have a little more staying power, mix it with a nut mix. That gives you more of that protein-carbohydrate combo. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Coming up, the new system in Nevada that leaders hope will streamline the voting process and eliminate errors seen in the old one. We're back in 90 seconds. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America. Then we start in Nevada with a new statewide voter registration system.
If it's correct, you hit yes, my information is correct.
Take a look at Nevada's new voter registration system being rolled out now all across the Silver State.
The in-person voting experience will be streamlined.
But the real benefit is on the back end. Before, all 17 counties maintained and updated separate lists of all voters in their county, a system described as outdated and prone to errors.
Those issues occurred because of those 17 separate systems that each of the counties had. 17 systems trying to feed into one system at the state level. We basically eliminated the opportunity for error that existed in the previous systems.
Now, the Secretary of State's office will manage one statewide list. Officials say it will also catch possible double votes quicker.
Humans cause about 70% of fires, more than 70% of fires in Oregon.
This is exactly what Jessica New Year tells me the Oregon Forestry Department is trying to avoid over the next couple of days.
The less human-caused fires we can have on the landscape, the less strained our resources are.
With the combination of dry and windy conditions mixed with extreme heat, New Year is urging the public to take extra steps to make sure fires don't start.
That's all makings for fire weather.
Right now, there are 2 fires crews in Central Oregon are keeping an eye on: the Copperfield Fire and the Shoe Fly Fire.
Firefighters in San Angelo, Texas, successfully rescued several people swept away on a flooded road this week. Deputies initially responded to the scene, but one of them struggled to stay above water because one of the people trapped people was panicking and clinging to him. The fire department stepped in and brought everyone to safety. The driver of the rescue truck says instincts kicked in immediately.
We had to get them out, and you just don't have that opportunity to say, you know, everybody take a break, let's take a breather and talk about it and start again. We just had to keep going, and if something didn't quite go right, I just had to kind of figure it out on the fly.
Coming up next here on the National Desk, a big discovery about volcanoes erupting on the moon. We'll have that story right after this. Once upon a time, there were active volcanoes on the moon, and they may have been still erupting much later than scientists previously thought. In a study published today in the journal Science, an analysis of rock samples that contained volcanic glass from a lunar mission in 2020 suggests these volcanoes didn't stop until about 120 million years ago, when the dinosaurs roamed the Earth. For some perspective, the moon itself is believed to be more than 4 billion years old, and scientists had believed the volcanic activity ended 2 billion years ago. Well, the study is now looking to understand how long moons and planets, including ours, can stay volcanically active. Some food for thought, and that's going to do it for us for this edition of the National Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Dee Dee Gatton here in Washington. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.